So bystander intervention is basically trying to create a big picture cultural shift around the way that we treat each other. And so bystander intervention is, the White House has actually put out a couple of PSAs on this. Bystander intervention is when there is like a super drunk girl at a party who's like falling over and slurring, and there's a guy who's like rubbing her arm and being like, why don't you just come upstairs with me? As a bystander, I might intervene, because she's too drunk to be making any decisions for herself. He's not asking for as a bystander. So that is one of the most popular things across the board. But bystander intervention is not quick, right? It's not something you can teach in 1:30. One of the big things that other studies as well as mine recommends is the concept of saturation. So when we're thinking about sexual assault prevention, you can't just like do 30 minutes and walk away. It's something that we need to have ongoing. So it's like having 15 minutes once a week at the end of practice. Or there's a lot of programs around men and masculinity that address this, where we talk about like bigger cultural issues around why it's okay to call women bitches and hoes, right? So big picture around cultural changes. And we know that culture doesn't change overnight. So the program that I created, I like to base it off of what the 5 W's. From like old reporting and journalism. So we think about who, what, when, where, why. Who is everybody needs to receive education. We need to be doing it men and women in separate rooms. We need to break it down by grade or by year. First year students in their first semester have very different experiences and know a lot less than that 5th year senior. And so it's basically like creating graduated steps of first year we talk about this, second year we talk about this, third year we talk about this, and so on. What we talk about bystander intervention. We talk about what consent is. One of the things in my dissertation found that everybody, literally everybody, had a different definition of consent. So really talking about consent and using that saturation model, we're hitting it over and over and over again so that people have a very clear idea of what that means. When do we do it? Ideally as early on as possible, so at the beginning of the school year. We also do it not at the end of a compliance meeting. That seems to be a very popular thing in athletics, is at the beginning of the school year. Compliance does their meeting with athletics, and we talk about the training room rules and the academic center rules and how the sports information director works with you. And then, oh yeah, at the end, we give you about 10 minutes of sexual assault prevention education. After you've been sitting there for 3 hours or 4 hours, that's the last thing anybody is going to take in effectively. So really, when you do it is really important. Research shows that where you do it is really important, and for athletes, it needs to be in a classroom and not in a locker room. There needs to be this like level of authority or importance or priority that's given to it, and kind of doing it in the locker room at the end of a practice is the least effective way to go about it. Why? The why is easy. It's because we're trying to reduce or prevent sexual assault. And then with the 5 W's, we also have how. And this was critical. It was like when they had a real life survivor story come in, all of them could tell me blow by blow what had happened in that presentation. Their level of engagement skyrocketed. So having a survivor come in and tell their story is one of the most effective ways to get the education done. And at a lot of universities, as part of their overall university education, they do have a survivor who will come in and tell their story. So that's really important. But big picture, the how is also about getting the student athletes engaged. And so there's lots of stuff we know about active learning and case studies and role playing and all of these things. it's taboo, it's sensitive, we don't want to talk about it. And so it's easier to just be like, click, 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 like, let's get through it, right? Checkbox, as opposed to actively engaging people and having some really uncomfortable discussions. But we know that's the only way people are going to learn. But it also takes more time. So to build an effective education program, it takes a lot of effort. And so that's what gets us closer to that zero tolerance, because it is more effort. You need buy-in from captains and team leaders. You need buy-in from your coaches to get time. You need buy-in from your athletic trainers and your academic advisors and everybody else who's surrounding these athletes and working so closely with them. So the thing about that is when you get buy-in from all these constituents, you're creating a comprehensive culture that says this is important, as opposed to, you know, you get one 15-minute presentation at the end of compliance and nobody ever talks about it again. Well, then we know that's not very important to people. So did that answer your question? Yes. Okay. Other questions?
Kristy, I was curious about how, so a lot of your work focuses on sexual assault in collegiate athletics. How might some of the principles you have come across apply in sport organizations that aren't necessarily directly dealing with athletes?
Well, I think a lot of it is when we think about some sport organizations will have policies around sexual harassment. If you work anywhere at a university, like Rex, where you're interacting with multiple people, online sexual harassment, sexual assault training. Has anybody ever had to do that for any of their jobs ever? Few of you, yeah. How effective is that sort of education online? Yeah, I saw like a couple of shrugs, like it's horrible, right? So part of that is taking some of those active learning principles and putting those into other workplaces. So if we're going to make this a priority to talk about it and do it, I get it. When you're trying to educate hundreds or thousands of people, doing an online module is the quickest and easiest way to do it, but it's not the most effective way. This is my entire line of research. I took one last week for my job, and it was like, I didn't learn anything from it. And there was some new stuff, especially around particular campus policies, but it's not an effective way to educate people. So we take some of those active learning principles, and we can tie those into other workplaces that could be really effective. The other piece is around survivor stories, or having that personal connection. It's that sense of, I don't know anybody this has happened to, or this isn't really a big deal. So I know that